What up, this is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. Now we are going to be doing rookies that have the biggest wide range of outcomes here. Now this is where they're going to be drafted. And I think that there's going to be some players that it could go as high as, 3, 4, all the way down into that like teen range, all depending on draft capital, how they show, landing spot, all these things do make a difference. And the first one we're going to talk about is because he is probably the wide range of what NFL scouts and NFL teams are already telling us. It's Anthony Richardson. Quarterback out of Florida. I love Anthony Richardson's tape at certain points in his career. Basically his career of 1 year. But there are other aspects where I look and go, ugh, reminds me a little bit of like a Malik Willis. He has the mobility, the strength, and everything to be a quarterback that ends up being fantasy relevant like Lamar, like Jalen Hurts. I would say even like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had a better arm and everything. Well, I would say a little bit more accurate arm and stuff. So Anthony Richardson is that type of quarterback that could get you into that like top 10, top 12. We talked about Justin Fields. We talked about Trey Lance a couple of years ago on how maybe they aren't a prototypical Trevor Lawrence pocket passer, an amazing pocket passer, but they are a cheat code when it comes to fantasy. And Anthony Richardson could be an absolute steal depending on how high in the draft he goes. Now, I think there's going to be an NFL team that likes him in the top 10 picks here in the NFL draft coming up. But you know what? He could end up falling like a Malik Willis. We knew that there was a ton of quarterback needy teams last year, and Malik Willis just kept falling and falling and falling. And then Kenny Pickett, he ended up being a middle first round pick too. If Anthony Richardson, if he ends up being a second round pick for bygone into a horrible situation, we could see him in the dynasty sphere being into that back end of the first. And so he has a wide range of outcomes. Also, you're going to have a lot of players like Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Jahmyr Gibbs, even Will Levis. Like, where is he going to be into that kind of sphere? And there might be even some other wide receivers and running backs that try to jump him. Whether it's Zach Charbonnet goes somewhere great, or A-Chain, or Zach Evans, or whoever it might be. There might be some running backs that move up into that sphere, which is what we're going to talk about. The running back 3 through a million, like we talked about last year. It's not 3 through a million, but it's like 3 through 10. There's 2 great running backs in this draft class, and then 3 through that 10 range, like last year, we really struggled to figure out, okay, is it going to be the Tyler Algier? Is it going to be the Rashad White? Is it going to be the Dameon Pierce? Who's going to be the running backs that step up, and who are going to be the running backs that absolutely disappear? And a lot of it is going to be draft capital. A lot of it's going to be landing spots. Do they go to Arizona? Do they go to Miami? Do they go to Chicago with no David Montgomery? Do they go to the Raiders without Josh Jacobs? Do they go to Minnesota when Cook and Madison are now potentially gone? Like, there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. And so the Zach Charbonnets, Evans, A-Chain, there is so many running backs that are in that group of like, I really like their tape. I think that they could be a success at the NFL level. But does the NFL, who they pay their scouts millions of dollars to figure this out, that draft capital is going to be an extreme important value through there. Also, we want to see some of this combine stuff. We want to see some of their quickness, their 3-cone drills. We want to see some of the elite attributes come out in hand and stuff. And then we can start looking through. It's like, okay, does that translate to tape? Does that speed translate to tape? Or they are just a burner and they don't actually have much to them, like a Dre Archer and stuff like that. So I am very interested to see where some of these running backs land. The next one, for me at least, and I know that this might be not a wide popular decision in the Dynasty community, but it's Quentin Johnston. And when you have a big wide receiver, a la like the Drake London type of last year, when you have a big wide receiver that is likely going to be a really high draft pick on a horrible team, like Drake London sitting into the Atlanta, you saw what Kyle Pitts, you saw Drake London. They are extremely talented. In fact, I like those players by far better than Quentin Johnston. But when you have him on a team that is probably going to be a bad team, it's going to all matter on, can that quarterback get him the ball? Because he's not a big separator. The likes of Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, those are better separators, smaller wide receivers, but wide receivers that I don't care about landing spots as much because they're going to be open. You need an accurate quarterback to be able to complement these big type of wide receivers to have success at the NFL level, which makes them more risky. And so any wide receiver that has that big body, 6'4", 215, that looks amazing, it's going to matter, not necessarily draft capital, but he could move down a couple spots if there's a couple other wide receivers that are better separators, better route runners, and have better situations than Quentin Johnston, then he's going to end up moving down a little bit through the rankings here. The next one is going to be Will Levis, and he is going to be a big one because, again, draft capital, quarterbacks. Does Anthony Richardson get drafted ahead of him? Does he get drafted behind him? Does Will Levis get drafted second overall? Does he get drafted third overall? Does he get drafted ahead of CJ Stroud, ahead of Bryce Young? Now, this doesn't necessarily matter because I feel like Will Levis is going to be behind CJ Stroud, behind Bryce Young, no matter what in my mind. It's going to take quite a lot. I mean, it's going to have to take a perfect situation in draft capital for Will Levis to jump those, either or both of them. It would take pretty much a miracle. But if he does have that draft capital stuff, you might have Bryce Young and CJ Stroud shift a little bit, and you might have teams or you might have fantasy owners end up jumping and trying to take Will Levis. They want to take that shiny fruit, that shiny person on a team. We talked about this with Kenny Pickett. I wasn't a huge Kenny Pickett fan, but he went to Pittsburgh and everyone was like, oh my goodness, he's got George Pickens, he's got Deontay Johnson, he's got Chase Claypool, he's got Najee Harris, one of the best one of the best pass-catching running backs out of the backfield. And we saw what Kenny Pickett did. Kenny Pickett is limited by some of his talent, and I don't think he's an amazingly talented quarterback. And the same with Will Levis. I think maybe you could say Will Levis is just a hair more talented. But if you put him on a really good situation, you put him with the Raiders where he's got Darren Waller, he's got Devontae Adams, he has potentially Josh Jacobs, he has some good weapons around him, and maybe they draft another player or a running back to help complement him. I think that still Will Levis would be easily into that third, fourth quarterback for me, but I think he'll have some draft variability depending on if you have some super strict leagues versus some leagues that, again, I see some of these teams where it doesn't necessarily shock me at this point because there are owners that will do things and I go, why did you draft Henry? I saw somebody draft Henry Ruggs over CeeDee Lamb because Henry Ruggs was the number one wide receiver drafted in that draft class, and he's got 4.2 speed. 157 mile per hour speed. If you get that, I think it's 157, whatever it is. So fantasy owners do things desperately because they go, well, this person was drafted over this person, so this person has to be. So again, I think there might be some more variability through here. We're going to see in this next upcoming month on where some of these players go, and I'm just excited to sit back, relax, and give you some more content. Peace out. We'll see you next week, and hopefully my family stays healthy. We're back from Cancun, so we'll give you some more content here soon.